So, here's the thing, right? Remember Smosh? Of course you do. If you're in my age range, they're the name that you respond to with a quick, "Oh yeah," and then a jolt of memories flashing back from your early adolescent start on YouTube. If blank were real, Food Battle. If you were a diehard like myself, Lunchtime with Smosh. Now, before we go more in depth with the meat and potatoes of this video, it's important to get the background out of the way as quick as possible. In 2002, Anthony Padilla created Smosh.com to make Flash animations on, which Ian Hecox joined in on later. In 2005, the channel Smosh was created. They blew up off that Pokemon lip-syncing video. They continued blowing up, started a gaming channel, transitioned a second channel into vlogging, gained members to help with the channel, lost Anthony because of creative restrictions, had their parent company essentially just be awful and burn out, and became reborn through Mythical Media. Shout out to Rhett and Link. Oh, and they inspired Jake and Logan Paul to make content, but that's another story for another day. Now, when I bring up the name Smosh, the thought that usually comes through the mind of those in their early 20s and late teens is, oh man, I haven't watched them since like 2013 or something. And there's a reason for that. That's pretty simple. Smosh never evolved. As I stated, their channel started in 2005 with them making lip-syncing videos and sketch comedy based off of relatively simple premises, such as being stuck at a beach or two foods squaring off against each other. Actually, Food Battle is the perfect way to explain the concept I'm trying to get at here. Smosh started their food battles in 2006, and the concept was fresh and different for the time. Two foods fighting each other in mundane and everyday tasks in a battle format. We had never seen anything like that on the internet, although videos hadn't been on the internet for very long. But regardless, it was working. And then they did it again in 2007, and it was still pretty funny. And they did it again, and again, and again, and again, and again, and again, and again for 10 actual years. Now you may argue that it's a situation that if it's broken, there's no reason to fix it. Now that's fine and all, but the issue comes back to the word that I mentioned earlier. Evolution. The issue with the Food Battle videos was that it was actually the same recycled storyline and content over and over again. Someone would come back from the dead, challenge the other. Ian would always use the pink frosted sprinkled donut. There would be battles between the two in tasks and functionality. Someone would win, generally through sabotage, the other would die, and an announcer would come up and ask, "What are you going to do next?" And the winner would invite the announcer on whatever they were going to do. There's an ongoing plotline in the most basic of manners, but it never strayed from the exact formula, so it became the same story over and over, with not one bit of evolution in anything. Not plot, not humor, absolutely nothing, which is a perfect analogy for Smosh as a channel. They stayed in the exact same lane, and while their audience started to grow in age, they stayed at the same level. It's like if you started going through elementary school, but every year you had the same kindergarten teacher. Just doesn't make sense, right? And that's how the majority of people who grew up with Smosh felt. So at some point or another, they just became bored and decided to not return to the channel for said reasons. And that's an absolute shame, because in 2015, there was a new crop of talent brought into the mix as Smosh was becoming increasingly more corporate and a bigger operation, which thus warranted more workers. Most specifically, 5 people were added to the main Smosh cast: Olivia Sway, Keith Leak Jr., Noah Grossman, Courtney Miller, and Shayne Topp. This is when things started to go in somewhat of a different direction. Although I think that all of the new members are pretty funny in their own way, I'm going to be focusing on Shayne because I think he was at the helm of the evolution of Smosh as a brand. For some context, Shayne was a former Disney star, in some respects, as he maintained a decent tenure on So Random and made cameos in random shows across Disney and Nick, including iCarly and Sam and Cat, among others. Now, the reason that this is so important is that Shayne came from a background that was more improv-based, as opposed to the stable foundation of sketch comedy that Smosh had previously built themselves on. Not only that, but it was evident after the first couple of months of the new team starring in sketches and on the second channel that Shayne had a significantly more adult sense of humor, and his jokes often involved playing off of more morbid things. And he generally presents those things in a more absurd way. And in doing this, he managed to meld the appeal of the main age groups on the internet. He kept the younger audience on the reel by basically absorbing the absurd comedy of the internet generation. He then reeled back in the older generation, kids in their 20-somethings, by honing in on more sophisticated humor than something like, "My sex robot?" This proved to be an effective tactic, as over the next year or so, it became incredibly evident that across all the cast members associated with the Smosh brand, only possibly rivaled by the originators, Shayne had become the most popular member by a significant margin. He infiltrated his way into basically becoming a member of Smosh Games, and the compilations of him on the internet far outnumber anyone else. In fact, to this day, if there is a video Shayne is not starring in, you can count on an abundance of comments asking where he is. The place where the majority of those comments can be seen is on one of Smosh's most recent endeavors, and by far their most popular, Try Not to Laugh. It's a series that plays off of the widely popular internet trend, but does it on a much grander scale. The members try to make each other laugh using specific props in their wardrobe, in a way that is essentially improv. There are a lot of episodes, and Shayne has been in all of them, aside from maybe 3 or 4, while the rest of the cast shuffles in and out pretty regularly. Oh yeah, except for Damien. Probably should bring him into the fold now. In 2017, on an episode of Show with No Name, Shayne brought along his best friend Damien Haas, who had also starred along him in So Random. It was apparent as soon as he showed up on screen that he carried the same chaotic and hilarious energy that Shayne did, and in a very small time span, he was added onto the Smosh Games roster. Within the year, he became such a popular staple that he got his own show with Shayne on the channel. He managed to forge his way to a weekly show that lasted longer than almost every series that Smosh tried to integrate with their new cast members on the second channel. In fact, the duo became so popular that, for a brief stint, they took over Smosh Pit Weekly, meaning that while everyone else had at most one solo show, they had 2. Now, I'd go on and elaborate on Damien's comedic style, but I basically summed it up when describing Shayne, aside from the fact that Damien added a bit more of a balance as a slightly more straight man. Wait, actually, Damien does add a bit more to the duo in an aspect that I believe was not present in Smosh's arsenal previously, and that would be the art of subtlety. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, one of my favorite methods that he commonly implements, and I like to use with my friends, is something that probably has an official term in the world of comedy, but I will be calling the reinforcer. This is when a joke is told that's a pretty solid joke, so much so as it's presumed to be the punchline to the setup. However, as the crowd continues laughing before they can get any time to breathe, Damien will slide in with another one-liner in a more monotone manner that enhances the joke tenfold. Up until the two joined Smosh, that type of humor was basically non-existent. Now, let's jump ahead in the timeline to the beginning of 2019, which was the Defy Media shutdown, and with it, a new era was ushered in. Not only were Shayne and Damien 2 of the 3 members who were simultaneously a part of every single Smosh channel, but they headed a good portion of the videos as well. Damien had basically taken the lead role of Smosh Games away from Jovenshire, and Shayne is the most prominently featured member on the second channel, with Olivia, Noah, and Keith taking a backseat to him and Courtney. Courtney should also be mentioned as a large contributor to the Smosh atmosphere, but we will save that input for her own style on a later date. And Ian is too naturally at the head of the channel, except he lacks inclusion on the Smosh Games side of things. But the people that stand out the most on how the humor of the channel has molded are indubitably Shayne and Damien. So we finally get to the main question that I imagine most of you are going to ask about this video, and that is what the point is? Well, the big takeaway that I implore you to absorb is actually give Smosh a chance. Listen, there's absolutely no doubt that Smosh is definitely more of a commercial entity at this point compared to the manner in which they operated previously. However, I truly believe and have seen first-handedly that Shayne and Damien are actively fighting against that through multiple methods. Not only do they attempt to make the content that they have been producing more digestible, but they also make strides toward creating new content, such as Tinder for Hot Dogs. Yeah, you heard that right, Tinder for Hot Dogs, video that has absolutely no right being a video. Was it kind of bad? Absolutely. But is it something unique that we rarely see other creators venture into? Also absolutely. There are a multitude of different ideas that are coming out of Smosh Factory. Spelling Bikini Wax, Eat It or Eat It. These are programs that are establishing a unique creative direction that seems to be following that unique blend of humor that gained prominence from Shayne and Damien. So if I can get out one final thing for the video, I implore all of you who have not watched Smosh in a rather long time to try taking a peek over their way. Even during this quarantine, they are constantly putting out content that exceeds my expectations for what they should be able to do. I hope this sheds some light on some creators you may not have watched. And for this episode, I'll let Damien sign himself off.
Guys, this has been great. Congrats to everybody on a very solid round.
Look, we did a good job.
You did a good job. Good job.
Yeah.
And don't forget to punch that notification bell as hard as you can. Break your computer and don't charge us for it. And we'll see you guys next time.
It's
Bye.
a party, get down.
So random. It's a party, get down. So random. It's a party, get down. So random.
Thank you guys for watching. This was another video on a more YouTube-based subject, but I promise I'll be going back to film stuff. I'm working on a Joker video. That'll be coming out very soon. I just had this script on the back burner, and I know I wanted to make it, so here it is. If you look in the description, you'll find our Patreon, our Twitter, our podcast, and our website, all things that we contribute to on a pretty significant basis. Follow us on anything. You guys are the best. Thank you so much for the recent support on everything, on the Jay Schlatt video, on the Barry Jenkins video, on the Final Fantasy VII video. Thank you for everything. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And this will be up on Thursday, so hope you're having a wonderful rest of your Thursday, and we will talk to you soon. Goodbye.